Hey, friends, you are listening to the first episode of my new podcast, MegAnne's Not a Parent, But. And I am so excited you're here. I'm so excited to start this process and this journey together, and excited to see where this will go and how this will change and evolve. Doing a podcast has been on my mind for quite some time, and finally just decided, let's do it. Let's start the conversation. Let's start talking about this, and I'm thrilled you're listening, so thank you. Let's get into episode 1. Hey friends, welcome to MegAnne's Not a Parent, But, the podcast hosted by me, MegAnne, and I'm a parenting coach with almost 20 years experience helping parents raise their children, especially the strong-willed ones. I have been described as the perfect blend of Mary Poppins meets Nanny 911, and I love to help parents drink hot coffee, stop yelling, and learn how to truly enjoy raising their strong-willed children. My goal is by sharing my views, my beliefs, and my tips that I can help empower you to parent more confidently in removing fear-based punishments and learning how to lean into the kind and firm approach of parenting with kindness. So glad to have you here. If you love what you hear, make sure to let me know by taking a screenshot and sharing on Instagram. My handle is Be Kind Coaching, and I love a tag. I like to say that it's my love language, and I want to connect to you. I want to know, what parts did you like? What parts resonate with you? What parts do you feel like everybody needs to hear? I want to know that. So let me know. So make sure to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. All right. Without further delay, let's get into today's episode. Hey friends, MegAnne here. And thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode. And let me just say, truth be told, I recorded all of this yesterday, and then I realized that I didn't record it with my mic plugged in. So round 2, right? Yesterday, I said that my personal mantra has been allow yourself to be the beginner. And yeah, friends, I am walking the walk. Being the beginner sometimes is so hard for me because I have this drive to, perfection and do it great and to be there. And it's really, I struggle to allow myself to be the beginner. So here I am, the first episode of my podcast, starting off with an honest, vulnerable share that this has been really hard for me to push start. It's been something that has been on my mind, has been on my heart to create for many years. And I don't know, it just feels like amazing that I have finally just jumped, right? Jump and the net shall appear. And so here I am, episode 1, jumping. And I'm so appreciative that you're here. So today's goal for me is I want to share with you who I am, what it is that I do, and more importantly, spend some time sharing the why behind what I do, because I think for some people, when they hear me, the number 2 questions, the 2 questions that I get asked the most is, first, how do you pronounce your name? And then second is, so how many kids do you have? And it becomes this um, really awkward point when I say I don't have children, because for most people, when they think about a parent coach, they think like, oh, well, you have children and you're sharing your experience with children. And for me, it's different, because for me, what it's been is I've spent my whole life helping to raise children and looking for ways to grow myself, in those ways to grow healthy children. And that's what I aim to share with my work, with my business, with this podcast. So if you don't know who I am, my name is MegAnne Ford, and I am married to Jason. And we met in 2010, March 21st, 2010, in a Washington, D.C. Starbucks. True story. I was coming home from New York from getting a tattoo and ran into him, and on the first 5 minutes lifted my shirt to show him my tattoo, which is the entire right side of my body. It's a tree, And I think I took him by surprise. And then we spent the whole day walking around together, and we've been together ever since. So this March will be 10 years together and 5 years marriage, which is insane to think about. We live here in Richmond, and we have three pets. We have a dog named Jude and two cats. My cat Icarus, who's 16. I got her when I was a sophomore in college, and if she could talk, the stories she would tell. And then we have a 7-year-old cat, Hedwig, that was actually born underneath my friend Caroline's deck. Yeah. My favorite color is green. I am an avid coffee drinker. I probably drink coffee all throughout the day, which I'm sure some of you are like, oh, that's not very good for you. It's okay. I balance it out with water too. I typically drink my coffee black unless it's poor quality coffee, which then I tend to add a little bit of sugar and cream. So, like diner coffee, I probably put cream and sugar in it, but typically I enjoy just plain old black coffee. It's simple, it's easy. I actually enjoy the taste, and it really does like get me charged and motivated. Yeah, I know, funny. Um, I also love learning and growing myself. So any sort of personality test, I've taken it. Any sort of like personal growth book, yeah, I'll read it. I love I love all that stuff. So I personally, for Myers Briggs, I am an ENFJ, and I am in Enneagram Type 3. I also know that my love languages are gifts and quality time, which is unique because I enjoy gifts of quality time, meaning all of the art in my apartment is created by children. The rings that I have are all artisan made, but with strong intention behind it. So I love a gift, but I love a gift with a reason and that someone put their quality time into it. Uh, yeah, it took me a long time to figure that out. I also, one of my favorite is Strength Finders. And my top 5 strengths for me came at a time where I was feeling really low about my confidence and low about myself. And when I learned my top 5 strengths, it instantly was like, ah, yes, this is what I'm meant to do. So my top 5 strengths are woo, meaning like I have a very good way of coming in and connecting to people in my area. I also love to, as an extrovert, I love to connect to different people, which is, I think, what gets me so excited about this podcast is like the ability to connect with so many different people. The second is individuality. So, blanket statements, big assumptions, like I have a very difficult time because I truly believe in looking to every situation as an individual and as a unique moment. I don't align with just lump statements. The third is belief, which for me, it made sense when I learned that belief is one of my strengths. It made sense to me why I always had a hard time, like just playing by the rule book or just following this is why we've always done it, that kind of mentality. I struggle with because I have a strong belief in how people should be treated, how especially children should be treated, and that I know that it can, be done if someone's open to learning how. So those are my like strong belief. I have a very strong conviction, very passionate. The fourth is strategic, meaning I can get from point A to point B in a very strategic way. I kind of see like big pictures and see how to get there um, to be more effective, not necessarily always efficient, but it'll be the most effective. And my last strength, which is my personal favorite strength, is developer, meaning I meet people where they are. I hear where they want to go. And one of my strengths is to help encourage and develop them to get there. And when I heard that, my friend Sarah in Richmond, she asked me to take this test. She was helping me do some Instagram marketing. And when I took this test, it just unlocked for me so much confidence. Like, oh, suddenly a lot of things, a lot of my passions, a lot of my ideals came together. And especially as a parent coach, I was like, this is why. I get it now. So that's who I am. That's a little bit about me. sharing a little bit about my insights, my likes, my personality. Maybe if you follow along with those personality tests, maybe that'll help you understand me a little bit more throughout this entire podcast journey. So, like I said, I'm a parent coach, and I want to just spend some time telling you, like, literally what that means. And backstory, 3 years ago, around this time of year, around the holidays, I was driving down 95 with my husband, Jason, and I had my feet on the dash. And I just said to him, I don't want to go back to work. And for me, I had worked 14 years in early childhood education and development, learning all of the things. Like, this is just who I've always been. I've always babysat. I've like literally probably helped take care of and raise thousands of children. I have worked with every sort of facet of childhood. I've worked with children with special needs. I've worked with divorced families. I've worked with families who have had a spouse pass away or a parent pass away. I have worked through all sorts of different diagnoses, from going from no diagnoses to a diagnosis. I've helped families get there. I've helped families bring in children, families who have lost children. Like, any sort of, I like to say, any sort of flavor of family, I've worked with it or in it and helped support them. And so it's just truly been like something that's written in my DNA. So when I said I don't want to go back to work, it caught Jason off guard. And he asked me, is it the children? And I said, oh God, no. And then he asked me, was it the parents? And I said, oh God, no. And he said, well, then what is it exactly? And that's when I said, to be honest, it's working with the other adults in my school didn't that don't get it, that still use fear-based punishments, that still shame and blame and humiliate and criticize children. um, I just have such a hard time being around it. Like, I just can't stand it. I have a very visceral reaction. And so then he said, well, simply like, well, what is it that you love to do? And I said, I love it when a parent comes to me and says, my kid won't, fill in the blank with whatever it is that you want it to be. My kid won't go to bed. My kid won't eat. My kid won't stop hitting me. My kid won't play nicely. My kid won't come to school. My kid won't leave school. My kid won't get dressed. Anything that anything that you could fill in there: potty training, eating, playing nicely, reading, feeling empowered, anything. My kid won't do it. And I love to say, like, fuck yeah, they will. Like, let's do it. Let's let's get them, let's figure out the way to it, because every child wants to be good. Every child wants that connection. Every child wants that sense of empowerment, sense of agency. Let's just figure out how to do it. And then we would do it together. And after I said that to him, he just said so quickly, well, why don't you just do that? And at the time, I was like, that's not even a thing. Like, nobody does that. Like, you can't just do that. And I remember so begrudgingly, like, turning my shoulder and Googling on my phone how to help parents be better parents. And this Google ad popped up and it said, want to become a parent coach? And it was this lightning bolt of clarity. I was just like, oh my God, this this is who I am. This is what I've been meant, what I'm meant to do. This is who I am, like, meant to be. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to do this. And I went to work on Monday and told all of my coworkers who I was close with, and instantly they were like, "Oh yeah, this makes so much sense, because that's just who you are." My coworkers would come to me for questions and, hey, this kid is having this difficult time. Can you help me understand what's going on? And we would just work together. So they instantly were like, oh yeah. And so about 3 years ago, I decided that I was gonna jump. I was gonna do it. And from that moment to where I am now, I have transitioned and grown and just worked with so many amazing families. And I've transitioned from working one-on-one in person coaching families. Like, I've gone to coffee shops, I've gone to their house, I've rented an office, all these different places. And now I work with families through my online coaching programs. So I've made an entire coaching program vault that has about 6 different programs in it, and from mini courses to specific courses to online trainings to my signature course called How to Build Your Kind Family, which is a course with group coaching, so coaching calls. in a private community, and it's just been amazing. I have been able to work with families all over the globe with all different storylines and all different kind of recipes come together to work towards removing this fear, shame, and punishment. So, what I like to say is, I like to help parents drink hot coffee, stop yelling, and truly learn to enjoy raising their strong willed children. Just my absolute favorite thing to do in the world. And I do that through my program vault. Brain break moment. I know I can go way deep and I can get there quickly. So let's take a little pause, a little moment to take a deep breath in and out. And take a moment to let you know that this episode is sponsored by me, MegAnne, and it is brought to you by my amazing parenting program vault. You can find it at my website at bekindcoaching.com. And the Parenting Vault is chock full of all of my programs and resources to help you gain the confidence, the connection, and the community that you're looking for in helping you raise your kind family. Make sure to go and check it out. And inside you can find my free parenting style quiz called How Kind Is Your Family? So it's 7 easy questions. You can go and take it and find out, are you the too kind parent, the too firm parent, or the kind and firm parent? Just make sure to download the guide so that you can get all of the assets and the liabilities delivered right to your inbox. All right, without further ado, let's take one more deep breath and get back to it. In, out, let's go. And now through this podcast and through my Instagram account, which is Be Kind Coaching, I love to help make this work as accessible and as easy to digest and able to implement as possible. So that's what I love to do. I love it. So that's who I am and what I do. And now why? Why do I do what I do? I think I do it because I'm strong-willed. I know that there's a push recently to um, use the word spirited instead of strong-willed, and I want to reclaim that word. I want to reclaim strong-willed because I am strong-willed, and I think it's a fabulous trait. It's a trait of purpose, of passion, of dedication, of strong conviction. And I want to help parents raising children with strong wills. I want to help them understand that instead of shame and punishment and fear and all this negativity, what children of all wills, but especially strong wills, what they need is support and empowerment and accountability and encouragement. So that's why I do what I do, because personally, growing up as strong-willed was not fun. I was raised in a family that has a lot of traditional parenting tools. They did their best. They did the best that they knew how. So when I brought home a poor grade or I was acting out, I would get punished. I would get spanked. I would get put in my room. I would get restriction. I would have things taken away. And for me, what that did is it inspired this sense of armor being built. Suddenly, I would retreat and become the person that you could not hurt. No matter what you did to me, you couldn't hurt me. And what ended up happening is there was a huge fracture in my relationship with my family because we couldn't understand each other. And they probably had the idea that I was, the bad kid or the rebel or the black sheep. And I had this sense of they don't get me, they're bad parents, I hate them, all this anger. And really none of that was the truth, coming my 35-year-old self, my 35-year-old self who has been open and has worked with a coach and has gone to therapy and has kind of done all of this inner growth work. I know that's not true now. I know that we were both just doing the best that we knew how to. We just had kind of a broken toolbox. But I know that now. At 22, when I had been doing this work for 4 years, I could go into my classroom and help empower children and feel so disempowered around my own family that when I was 22 years old, I called my mom up and told her that I couldn't do the relationship anymore, that I needed to take a break, that I was not going to be going to the holidays. And for me, what that looked like is it started an 8-year open estrangement with my mom and subsequently my dad. Um, my siblings, most of them we still kept in contact, but it was tense, it was uncomfortable, it was awkward because no one talks about it. And it was hard. It was really hard. And thankfully, about 8 years into it, when I was 30, about 30, yeah, 30, my mom called us up and invited us to come to Christmas. And when I got there, I noticed that she was not well. And thankfully, I had support. I mean, this is a story for another day, but thankfully, I had support around me from Jason and was able to just kind of like let down my guard a little bit and see that she was not well. And it was that day that I realized that I needed to reconnect to her because my time with her was going to be over soon. So I, in turn, started to visit her, started to reconnect to her, and ultimately she passed away a few months later. The week after I was, I got proposed to. The week after I became engaged, she passed away. And I remember um, when she passed with such love and such peace and such connection and such forgiveness from me that actually now 6 years out, we actually have a better relationship, which is weird and ironic, but I feel like through the work that I do with families, through the work that I do with myself, through the work that I aim to do with this podcast and everything, it has helped me see and appreciate and accept her for exactly who she was and exactly for who she was being, and offer myself forgiveness for who I was being. So my big why is to help anyone in that essence of those 8 years, be it, when they're adults or when they're raising adults or when they're raising children, to know that those 8 years, I don't want anyone to have to go through those, if you don't want to. If you're like, I need a different way, like I can't handle this. I want something different. I know it could be different. I know it could be better. I just don't have the tools. And for people who are open to seeking that help and seeking that tool and seeking that support, that's who I aim to help. And that's the need that I look to fill with this podcast and with my courses and with my Instagram and with all the things. So, yeah, I think that's it, guys. I think I did a pretty good job, right? Like, you know who I am, you know what I do, and now you know exactly why I do what I do. And I want you to know that on the next episode, on episode 2, we're going to be talking through just some podcast agreements, just general expectations and guidelines about what you can expect from this podcast and what I expect as you being a podcast listener. So, that's where I'm going to end it. All right. Episode 1 done. And my mic was plugged in. And I feel so great that now the rest will flow. It's just always so hard to start. But like I said, as I started this episode, I'm going to end this episode. It's powerful to allow yourself to be open to being the beginner and to take messy, imperfect action. There's such power in it. So until next time, thanks for listening. Bye, friends. All right, friends, you have been listening to MegAnne's Not a Parent, But, the podcast for parents raising the strong-willed. I am so thankful that you have taken a little bit of time out of your busy day to settle in and have a chit chat with me. It's literally my favorite thing to talk about. I could talk about it all the time. So that's why I started this podcast. So thank you so much. If you found value in this podcast, please, please, please do me a favor and take a screenshot and share it with me. You can share it on Instagram. You can share it on Facebook. Just make sure to tag me so that I can see it. Like I said, my love language in episode 1, my love language is gifts of quality time, and a tag on social media or a review of this podcast or any sort of interaction and engagement, man, you're filling my love bucket. So thank you so much. I can't wait to chat and connect to you, and see you next time. Bye, friends.